Okay, it says we're live.
Hi, Ralph.
Hi.
Gary
How you
Corbett up
doing?
here. Yeah, you see me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm all hooked up. Thank you.
Okay. Um, Hi, I'm Ralph Preston, and I run Stroke Buddies, and this is the second week that we've done this physical live physical therapy class. It was pretty popular last week. Got a lot of views. A lot of people said positive things, so here we go again. I have no idea whatever's going to happen, although Wendy suggested core. I made up some new graphics for future shows, and I made one of them on core. I'm kind of thinking about having some topics, um, so maybe we got some direction, but it'll always be open to people's questions because that's sort of the whole idea would be to listen to what people are dealing with and see if we could help. However, next week we're going to have Dr. Samantha Amadeo going to come back and talk about what's the title? We just made it up yesterday. The hard truth about the tough love you need for stroke recovery. Are you your own worst enemy? Interesting because she's a doctor of physical therapy, and in the past we mostly talked about physical therapy type things. I mean, well, and actually, attitude and the way you approach physical therapy is maybe the most important. We just hadn't talked about it before. It's the most important because if you're not to some level of acceptance, you're probably not doing your physical therapy like you should. And then the week after that, we've got a guy, Andre from the UK, who runs aphasia nonprofit. So for the next 2 weeks, we got guests, and then if we don't have guests, I'll go back to doing this. I think this is a better idea than just talking. Also, for anybody out there in YouTube land or here that doesn't know, we have a talk show, Am I Okay, every Thursday at 2 p.m. or Eastern Time, where we talk about anything. We don't record it. You can say whatever you want. We try and solve the mental issues. So, well, that was a long intro. So, without further ado, anybody got anything they're working on or any questions?
Yeah, I've got one.
Okay,
Uh,
Chris.
I'm 11 years post-stroke,
Right.
and up until about 3 weeks ago, I was able to function all right. But about 3 weeks ago, my hamstrings are getting very sore when I'm walking. I can usually only walk for a little while before I have to stop. So my question is, it's probably I'm trying. I've decided to uh, strengthen my hamstrings because I assume that what's happened is they become weaker and weaker over the time, and I got to a tipping point where it's not comfortable anymore. So first of all, I thought it was because I had tight hamstrings, but I think it's probably because I got weak hamstrings. Uh, and that goes with the whole of the outside of my leg. You know, the calves are also tight, but the hamstrings are the worst. So, in your experience, have you found that your affected side can be strengthened quite easily, or can be strengthened with a bit of progress?
I found my left side can be strengthened fairly easily, but that doesn't mean that yours can. I know you had a little accident 2 months ago or so, and you had to lay off. I'm wondering, like you say in the
Does it?
last,
It does go back to that period. Yes, you're right.
well,
Uh,
and the other thing is, so if you have to lay off and then you come back, you can come back too strong and cause that. So is it? How long have you been feeling the pain? And is it getting any better? Have you tried backing off a little bit?
well, I've had to back off a bit, but yes, couple of months ago, as you know, I had a car accident, so that forced me to lay off. And after that, it seemed to get worse. Uh, I assume that the body just deteriorated quickly, and therefore I need to build up a bit slower than I was doing. You're probably right. I was probably trying to do things I used to be able to do.
Well, I mean, I can't say for sure, but that's something a lot of people do, especially after they're either forced to or take some kind of break. They come back with what they were doing a couple months ago, and maybe it's too much. You know, this is a tough one because you've got hypertonicity or dystonia, whatever you want to call it, and so I got rid of my spasticity mostly. So this is my opinion or theory or observation. It seems to me that the people that have a lot of spasticity are more prone to it. I always think about the movie Carrie, where they reach up out of the ground and grab her and pull her back down. It seems like spasticity can get a hold of people who have a lot of it more than some of us who manage to get rid of most of it. So you're fighting that battle to begin with. Um, and
Yes, I think my spasticity has decreased recently, over the last year, which is good.
oh, yeah, that is good. That's a real positive sign. So I mean, I would keep working. 11 years out is a long time, but neuroplasticity lasts a lifetime. Now at 11 years, I'm thinking I was sitting in front of the TV in the room behind me at 11 years, and I noticed that my toes came up and I couldn't wiggle them. And I went, why did I never work on my toes? I have no idea why I didn't. Or why didn't I notice it before? I had noticed it before because that toe would wear out socks quicker than the other one, and sometimes I
Mm.
could see a little bump up on my sneakers. You all probably know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've
Um,
got the same one.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I spent a month or so and learned how to wiggle my toes and hold that toe further back down at 11 years. So I'm mentioning that because of the neuroplasticity aspect, it's quite possible. So I mean, I would say don't back off all the way. I know you have to listen to your body. There's two ways of backing off. One is to do less every day, but keep doing it every day. And the other is to do maybe a little bit more and do it every other day or 2 days and 1 day off. Or some people in coming back have to take 2 days off and 1 day, 2 days off and 1 day, and then go to every other day and then to every day. I'd say
Mm.
keep building it up and keep seeing if you can get rid of more and more of that spasticity. Um, this happens when you're walking, not when you're exercising. You're
Now,
not doing,
when I'm walking,
how far are you walking?
oh, probably only a few hundred yards.
Oh, okay. And it gets you that quick.
Yeah.
And it didn't used to.
No, no,
Because you,
I could do probably up to about a mile before.
because you used to do, well, you'd probably still do lawn bowling, bulls. What do you call it in English?
Yeah, lawn bowl, and that's where it's getting me.
That's
That's
where it's getting you. Okay.
yeah.
Because,
So I've been forced to use a wheelchair recently, which is
okay,
not what I
bad
want.
joke. Yeah, got a bad joke in my, so I was going to say, I suggest you take up a new sport, a new hobby, golf, and walk all 6,000 yards. Ha ha ha. Ha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I
well,
used to. Yeah.
good luck with that. Bad joke. Um, well, obviously, since you enjoy that, you want to be able to do that without having, and think about tossing the balls, not how much your back of your legs hurt. So I'd just say keep working on overcoming it.
Mm.
Sorry, I can't be more help. I've been trying to help you with this whole dystonia hypertonicity thing for
Well, no, you give me the clue that probably the layoff uh, initiated it in the first place.
too bad they don't do chironeurolysis in England that I know of. I mean, Dr. Winston doesn't. That would be interesting to see what happened if they um, did it on your hamstrings
Hmm.
and your calves.
Yeah.
Uh, you could always fly to Victoria
Hmm.
if you got to spare a few $1,000.
Yeah.
I don't think the treatment's that expensive, but you have to be there for a few days and a plane ticket and cross the big pond's $1,000 these days, or £1,000. Anyway, uh, that's not practical. Well, I mean, would if you had the money and thought it would work for you, I guess it's a practical solution. It's not one you can do at home with nothing. Like, all my toys back there in that chair behind me are all things, they're axe handles and chip clips and a few weights and bands, a few things that have been bought, but they're mostly things around the house. I'm big on um, getting better without devices. Not that I don't believe in devices, but people don't often have access to devices and things. If you don't have good insurance, you're not getting physical therapy, so you can't tell them, well, just walk on one of those robot treadmills or one of the anti-gravity water-filled treadmills because you have to have access to one, or do hyperbaric oxygen treatment. Oh, my insurance company won't pay for it. So, oh, Linda Jarrett. I forgot to look at
If
forgot.
I could comment a little bit,
Sure. And all
um,
you,
uh, this is Bruce Hetzler. Again, I'm not a physician, but in terms of spasticity, I know a little bit about it, and it's difficult to deal with because you can tell that a muscle is spastic because in the short term, the more you use it, the stiffer it becomes. On the other hand, to reduce the spasticity, you have to use it more.
Hmm.
So in the long run, the more you use it over time, the better it gets. But in the short run, the day you're using it, it gets stiffer and stiffer. So you have to use it to treat it. At the same time, using it makes it feel worse. Also, if you have an accident, a fall, or something like that, that can sort of reset your brain so you can lose all the gains you've made. Have to start over trying to deal with the issue, which in this case is spasticity. Also, in general, if you stop exercising or going to therapy or both on a daily basis, you will regress. That is, the spasticity will get worse. Also, the older you are and the further removed you are from the stroke, the more difficult it is to improve. So, at some point, you reach a point where you have to keep doing the exercises just to maintain what you've got. It's difficult to deal with, and I can say that personally. I'm 14 years out, and I've still got spasticity on the left side of my body, but I know that the only way to effectively deal with it is to use the spastic muscles.
Hmm.
Tried about 9 months ago to get Botox, and that was a disaster. It made everything worse. Sometimes Botox helps people. For me, it was no help at all, and I deeply regret doing it, but I can't undo it. And so now I have to make up for those effects.
so it sounds like Chris has multiple things going on. He had an accident, so his brain could have at least partially reset. he had to lay off. That's not good for the whole thing about keeping it up every day. And then you got the whole, it's kind of what you described essentially as a catch-22. You have to you have to move to beat the spasticity, but if you move too much, you can cause too much spasticity and then too much pain. So we're back, Chris, to the same old thing about listening to your body and trying to figure out how much to do and how much to not do and constantly
Yeah.
steering, constantly adjusting based on what your body's telling you. But the overall message is keep trying to push through
Yeah. Thank you.
in some way.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Chris, what does your pain feel like on your spasticity? If you don't mind me asking. Yeah,
Oh,
anybody's.
very tight, very tight, very tight
Yeah.
muscles. And the muscles don't perform as they should do. So they're weak and they're tight. And
Does it hurt just sitting there when you're sitting
no,
there or just when you're moving?
no, just when you're moving.
Okay. It's so strange. I can't figure out spasticity. Like it's so different for everybody. Because Dr. Hessler, you said, because I do like high intensity workouts on the recombinant bike. And I have spasticity, but it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't hurt me. The only time it hurts is when I'm like, someone's stretching me out, like, pretty hard, like a pulled muscle. That's what it feels like.
If you have a spastic muscle and someone tries to pull it quickly, that activates the spasticity even more. So if the muscle's spastic, you stretch it, you need to do it slowly.
Yeah, no, I know that. But generally, it doesn't hurt. That's what I'm getting at. It's just strange how spasticity is so different for everybody. Because if I'm working out, it doesn't hurt me or it doesn't affect me at all. But I know my muscles are tight because I can't get a really
Yeah,
bad inversion. So my calves are tight because I can't get the range that I need, you know,
I
to
think
get
it's
the ankle movement.
I think it's lack of communication between your muscle and your brain. Therefore, the spine takes over. Is that right, Dr. Hester?
Well, more or less, spasticity is a brain problem, not a muscle problem. So you have in general terms, the way to reduce spasticity is to increase the amount of the brain devoted to that muscle group. And you can only do that by exercising that muscle group. I've talked to Ralph before that your body is mapped out in your brain. There's a map of it called a homunculus. It's basically, it looks like your body, but it's distorted.
It's got giant hands and giant lips because of
Yes.
all the
Yeah, I've
connections.
seen that. Mm.
So the more you use part of your body, the greater its brain representation is. And Edward Taub, who developed constraint-induced movement therapy, demonstrated that therapy increases the brain size of the limb that is being tested with the constraint-induced movement therapy. He actually showed with recordings from the brain, with MRI recordings, that part of the homunculus increases in size. And that's really what reduces the spasticity, the increase in size.
I mean, it only makes sense. I mean, the concept of neuroplasticity is the plastic part, meaning the ability to change. So, just like if you want to get somebody's attention, what do? You jump up and start, yelling and waving your hands and everything. So if you think of exercise like jumping up and waving your hands and yelling and everything, what you're doing through exercise is you keep telling your brain, hey, I want to do this. That's the theory I believe behind weight bearing. What I was told both on your arm and your leg, when you do weight bearing, it's sending signals to your brain that you want to use that limb as opposed to, just doing the old hanging limb thing. And that's why I didn't do constraint-induced movement therapy. Basically, in the early days, I think they actually tied people's hands behind their back, and somebody had the idea of going with an oven mitt. I didn't wear an oven mitt because I just reminded myself to use my affected hand as much as possible. So, it's called functional therapy. It's been studied. It does work. It's basically the concept of like constraint-induced movement therapy, forcing your affected side to do as much as possible and send as many signals up to your brain as possible to say, hey, this arm is down here, this leg is down here, we want to use it. Your brain's built to respond to that. So, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, you want to use the affected limb as much as possible, because otherwise your brain will forget how to use it.
Right.
So
there is something called learn non-use.
That's correct.
You know more about learn non-use than I do. I know about it, but go ahead if you want.
You have to use it every day, really. If it's your hand, your arm, your leg, whatever it is, you need to use it every day so your brain doesn't forget how to use it. If those neurons that control that limb aren't used to control the limb, then they are assigned to something else. And if they're assigned to something else, then you got no way to learn how to use it in the future if you want to.
Well, you got to break connections or it becomes a lot more difficult. One of the things that people do that I worry about is they always walk with a postured arm and they don't swing it. Now, if you can't swing it, you can't swing it, but I see people sometimes doing a little bit of motion, and I always want to tell people, try and move both those arms in opposition when you walk. One of the things I did early on, and this is crazy simple, but in order to remind yourself to move that affected hand while you're walking, you move your left hand with your right leg, your right hand with your left leg, the same way babies crawl. And there's a reason babies crawl that way, because our brains work on opposition. But anyway, one thing I did, real simple, thought about it one day, to remind me was you tie a ribbon or string around your wrist and it tickles your hand. Assuming you have feeling in your hand. I've got some numbness, but it worked for me. I can feel, I don't know how to describe it. I'm sure all of you've got the same issue if you've got any kind of numbness or whatever. So if I touch it slightly, I get all kinds of signals. Gives me like the shivers. On the other hand, it's kind of numb. It feels like I've been sitting on it for about a week. You ever sit on your hand and it feels real fat and raw and can't feel it? That's what mine feels like. I learned how to tune it out though. Of course, when I'd say that and people say how long, they don't like the answer because it took about 5 years or more. It didn't happen. Also, nothing like spasticity, numbness going away. Nothing is like a switch. It didn't like go off one day. It's hard to say exactly because it just keeps decreasing. So
you can.
It's a simple trick if you're trying to work on opposition. I've got a video where I show people how to do it at the counter, even if their arm isn't moving much. And tying a string or a ribbon around and having it tickle your hands is a good way. Some people have trouble straightening that elbow and when they walk and stuff. So they're walking like this with the bent wrist and the postured shoulder and the approaching the stroke pattern. They're walking like this. I don't know about the science behind it, but some people have like taken a half gallon of an empty half-gallon milk container. That'd be a 2-liter container for you, Chris. And here they've got handles on them, and you can people can fill them with sand. Is pretty heavy. I don't know, is sand heavier than water? Anyway, they fill it with water or sand, and that helps pull that arm down. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not, but I've heard a number of people say they did it. I tried it one time, didn't seem to affect my hand, but I was already straightening my elbow all the way. That took a while. They get stuck about here. Well, they get stuck up here too, but a lot of people get them like this far open, but can't do that last little bit.
You can always use an ankle weight on your wrist.
Once I got my brain trained, I mentioned that ribbon. I only wore it for a couple of weeks because after that it was a pain. You ever try and tie a ribbon around your wrist with one hand? So it was a pain, and I got to where I kind of trained my brain to think about it. And what I started doing was I started doing this like a power walk. Before my stroke, my wife and I used to race walk. She could race walk about 14-minute mile, which is pretty good. Actually, we did a 5K. She wouldn't run one time. I paid for everybody in my video company to do a Habitat for Humanity 5K, and she beat about 6 people. She beat 6 people walking, and they were running.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the whole thing where you shift your hips and you have to have a foot on the ground at all times. You don't, like when you're running, you leave the ground. And so I did a modified version of that, like a power walk. I called well, here I demonstrate it. And she took the wrist weights when she left, but basically, and I don't have very much space to do this in. Basically, you're going to go boom, 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 boom. So I had like 1 and 2 pound wrist weight when we did, and she took them. But I'm not a big believer in weights, but once I was trying to work on strengthening that arm in addition to getting the opposition pattern back, and I put it on both wrists because I believe in balance. This is a 1 pound weight. I've got 2 pound weights, so you can just carry one of these. Actually, for somebody working on their hand who didn't have too much spasticity, you can open their hand because I don't think you should do too much gripping. The other thing is when you're exercising, sometimes you forget about how much you're gripping, and you can be like gripping like crazy over here and not be realizing it. But yeah, a small wrist weight worked good for me. What I was wanting to do was, be able to keep this left arm when I was doing that, it would tend to droop. And I wanted to, so I thought about, keeping them level and even. And I put weights on them. After I got them level and even, I put weights on them. I'm not a big believer in, like right out of the gate, loading yourself up with weights. For me, it worked best, and I believe in theory that you get the range of motion back, and then you build up strength. And in fact, people ask me, how'd you get rid of your spasticity, and how long did it take, and how, well, Linda Jarrett's back. I messaged her and told her to try to let her in once and try again. So I'll let her try and let her in. I need to pay more attention to that, because I guess if somebody's in the waiting room 10 minutes, they might give up on me. Anyway, what was I talking about?
Weights on your wrist.
Got somebody else in the waiting room. Okay. What was I talking about, Chris?
What weights on your hand?
Yeah. Getting rid of spasticity. So I found, I jumped on my recovery. I did a lot even in the very beginning, and I found that my spasticity started decreasing. I did stuff every day. I worked on my hand 3 times a day. I worked on my shoulder 3 times a day, and I walked 6 times a day. So I definitely did it. I had some issues, Chris, in the beginning with overdoing it. A lot of my overdoing it in the early days had to do with my brain. My brain couldn't take it. It wasn't a matter of muscles. I'd just get like mentally exhausted, out of brain. When I was walking in the beginning, I could only walk like 2 laps of my driveway, which didn't take, I went out to walk for an hour or 50 minutes, and so I'd walk 2 laps, sit down for 5 or 10, walk 2 more laps. Eventually I got to where I could walk the whole 50 minutes. But what I found was, as I got I always demonstrate with my left arm, because it shows up on the screen pretty well. Showing a leg, I gotta jump up or do that. Anyway, I found as I got the range of motion back, remember my elbow wouldn't open all the way, but as I got the whole range of motion back, I started to notice a teeny amount of spasticity going. Then I added some weights, like in the case of just doing a basic curl, and I maybe got to 5 pounds. I'm not a big believer in big heavy weights. I see people. I'm not going to demonstrate that with my unaffected side, with my affected side. See a lot of people, they put this big old weight in there and they go, and they can't control the down, and they jerk the thing up, and they're really not doing them near as much good as, you want to do everything smooth and controlled. So you want to let that weight down nice and even. It's all about the down, by the way. I mean, it's natural for us to pull things towards us, so you tend to jerk things towards you. But going down, and you could let it flop, and boy, I'll tell you what, in the beginning, I'd get mine about right here, and it would just flop. And I had I had weakness right here, and I had what I called a bump right here. Even after I got past it, I would go here, and I'd feel this I probably can find it. Nah. I guess I finally worked it out. Anyway, if I find this weak bump, and what I do is just work through the bump, then go back to doing the full range of motion. When I felt that weakness come right there, I'd work the bump again, build it up, and keep going. I'm a big believer in whatever's not working, you fight against it. Now, Chris, in your case, we were talking about, fighting against it in some kind of a controlled way so that you don't overdo it, so that you can do it tomorrow. Your objective is to figure out where you're at now, and then how much you can add every day without going back to messing yourself up.
Yeah.
And that's tricky, because we all know the curve of recovery looks like the stock market. So, on tomorrow you could have a great day. Thursday you could have a not so great day. And so figuring out where that tipping point is, where you get yourself into trouble and pain, that's tricky, because it's not necessarily consistent every day. But if you look at it every day, and eventually you'll figure out if you're having a bad day and that's the reason, or whether you need to actually back off. Okay, Linda, you got in, so did Tina. All right, I got to do better with the waiting room. So I get to answering questions, we get to talking, and I got to do my other job. Dr. Hetzel, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, earlier, a couple of 10 minutes ago or so, you were talking about the sensitivity of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
And it's two comments here. First, it is possible to re-educate the sensitivity of your hand. It was lost by a stroke. You can touch different objects that have a different texture. Like you can run your fingers or your palm over a silk handkerchief versus sandpaper of various coarseness. Put an ice cube in it, touch something warm. You can basically re-educate your hand, and actually that can help motor control of your hand and arm also. Your brain, we talked about the homunculus. You actually have a sensory homunculus and a motor homunculus. The motor part of your brain is in the frontal lobe. Your somatosensory part of your brain is in the parietal lobe, which is behind it. And there is a motor homunculus at the back part of the frontal lobe and a sensory homunculus at the front part of the parietal lobe. So they're side by side. And there's communication between them. So if you increase one, that helps to increase the other. So the sensory re-education of your hand will help motor control of your hand, and likewise, improving motor control of your hand will improve the sensitivity of your hand. So those help each other because they're interconnected.
Right. They told me that that it goes away in most people, and they use the term "goes away," and that within 6 months or so. And I don't know how true that is. That's what I heard at the rehab hospital.
What goes away?
So, the lack of sensitivity, the numbness for a lot of people. They also told me about the rubbing your hand with different things. I tried coarse sandpaper, those metal picnic tables, rubbing it on the great stuff, fake fur, Swiffers, soft things, hard things, mixing them up. I didn't, I don't think I tried ice cubes. To this day, I have a lot of trouble with something. I can't take something out. I can take something out of the freezer with my affected hand, but I can't hold it for more than about 5 seconds, maybe 10. But at 10, my hand is like screaming, like, "What are you doing to us?" Same thing. I can pick up 2 5-gallon buckets filled with dirt, and this one, same handle, same weight. This one, no problem. This one feels like the handle's cutting through my hand like a knife. So I tried that, Dr. Hetzler, and I'm not trying to discourage anybody out there who's got numbness from trying it. Absolutely try it. It does work in some people. I tried it for a good long while, and it didn't work for me. And then about 5 years, I hadn't seen a neurologist in a while, since 6 months or so after my stroke. So it had been 4.5, 5 years. I decided I should go see one, and I had a couple of questions. I don't think he really got it. I said, when you're sitting on the back of your porch wondering about this stuff, and you don't have an answer, knowing that there is no answer is an answer unto itself, and you can stop thinking about it. So I'm here to ask you some questions to which there may be no answer, but if I get an answer that there is no answer, that'll be an answer for me when I'm sitting on the back porch. Got that? Anyway, he looked at me kind of strange. I asked him about sensitivity, and he said, "Well, we really don't know." But he said the fact that you're further out you get from your stroke, with it, the less likely it is to go away. Is what we think. So at 5 years, it's I would say it's not likely to go away. I said I'm fine with that. I just wanted to know so I can stop thinking about it. And I stopped thinking about it, and it hasn't gone away. I'm at 17 years. But like I said, I learned how to tune it out. The one time that I'm very aware of it is like right now, because I'm talking about it. So we're back to that same thing in a sense, Dr. Hetzler. What you tell in your brain is what your brain responds to. So I'm sitting here like talking about my hand, and my brain is letting me know that that hand's numb. And whereas in the beginning of this meeting, when I wasn't thinking about it, I just, feels kind of normal. So anyway, so if you have numbness, you can try all those tricks. They definitely do work for some people. I've talked to people that got rid of it that way. So it's a proven technique, but like everything in stroke, it's individualized and didn't work for me. So
Well, it's not going to hurt you.
it won't hurt you. No, the fur feels good too. The sandpaper kind of sucks.
Yeah. See how far you can go.
Well, and I got some of that sandpaper like with little rocks on it, stuff for like really tearing
Right.
it up in the beginning, like, wasn't like it was, like 20 grit, not 200 grit. Um, well, because I was trying, and the metal table, I had a
Sure.
friend who had, the tables, my table's glass, but they make these picnic tables and they're like a mesh. It's
Right.
a solid piece of metal and they push and it makes little slots. And they're not real rough, but I had a friend who had one and I'd just sit at his house and rub my hand on there and then tickle it. Or have a piece of something soft. You can always find something soft. I didn't use Swiffers, but when I was talking earlier, I somehow reason thought of it like a Swiffer. Of just a very light stimulation versus an intense stimulation. I think the idea, Dr. Hetzler, would be to mix it up, go back and forth is what I did between the rough and the smooth, back to the rough, back to the
Right.
smooth, to try and mess with your brain, I guess is what you're doing. All right. Tina, Linda, either you got any questions or anything you want to talk
I got a
about?
question.
Okay, move on. Well, oh, I'm
All
sorry. I
right,
didn't see your hand up there in the upper.
that's okay. I was just letting you talk. Before we kind of went on a sidetrack tangent about stuff. Can I circle back on the spasticity because there was a catch-22 point in the conversation about if you do more high intensity, there's potentially that it could increase your spasticity or worsen your spasticity, but you'd have to continue doing the exercise to lessen it. You know what I mean? So where do we land with that? I was just curious.
Um,
Like,
well, it's kind of a lot like Chris and the pain in his leg. You got to find a happy medium that works for you. I can sit here right now and take a particular exercise and tell you how I react to it, and I can pass that on to you. But that does not mean that your body and your stroke and your brain are going to react the same way. So, um, one thing, I wonder if there are any experts on body awareness. I mean, I'm pretty good at body awareness, and I certainly can talk about it because I had a lot of experience. But I'm just thinking, be great to have get an expert on developing body awareness and teach people how to do it. I believe that some people are, I don't know if we're born with it or we develop it early on. I don't know if it's nurture or nature, but some people seem to have more of it than others. And I think that you can learn it, but I've also met people that had a lot of trouble learning it. And my observation was that they weren't real observant. I'm really intense and focused, and I notice everything. I walk in a room and Uh, if we could play a little game. I could go in a room with you, Masson, and I could tell you to move three things. Walk out of the room, tell you to move three things. When I come back in, I could tell you what happened. I could tell you what changed.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's
I
pretty
think
impressive.
that natural intensity, or I'm a visual person too. I think that helps me. But it's really important after a stroke to take advantage of the body awareness you have and develop any more. I never wrote things down, but sometimes, I've suggested to people that they write down what's working and what's not working. Like Chris could write down if he walked 300 yards and he had pain, then he could try 200 and he didn't have pain. Then he could figure out to work 200, try 225, try 250, see if he can get back up to 300 through paying attention. I see a lot of people in videos just, doing their stuff. They don't seem to be present. When I did physical therapy, I was like 100% there. I was thinking about watching what happened, thinking about what happened, trying to figure it out and learn my particular body awareness on the exercise or activity that I was doing. I don't know if that answers your question. It's kind of a up to you thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it's so individualized that you just have to kind of find your happy medium, essentially.
Well, and yeah, because spasticity is real different in a lot of in people. For example, Dr. Hetzler mentioned that it's velocity based. I never had any trouble moving fast. My friend
Nor me. Nor
Mitch,
me.
Mitch Raymond came on and did a thing on spasticity, and he demonstrated with his arm he could move it like that. He could open it up most all the way. He doesn't quite have full elbow extension or full opening of his arm. But if you tried to force it and do it fast, you could watch it lock up. It would lock
I
up.
think we had rigidity, not spasticity.
Rigidity, not spasticity.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's it's something that also people who've had Parkinson's, they get rigidity.
That's an interesting question. I mean, I have an idea in my head what rigidity is. I'm going to ask right now, and we'll see what the answer is. What's the difference between spasticity and rigidity in your muscles post-stroke? Question mark. Do you use the same techniques to get rid of both of them?
But Chris, that's what it feels like. It's rigidity in your arm or legs. You know what I mean? Because it just feels stiff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean,
And
I
I can move my leg or arm quickly. It doesn't bother me.
okay. I felt certain rigidity or stiffness, so I attributed it to spasticity. I have an answer here. Let's see what Perplexity AI says. Difference between spasticity and rigidity after strokes. Are both types of abnormal muscle tone commonly seen after a stroke, but they are distinct and have different underlying mechanisms. Spasticity, definition, a velocity dependent, not in my case, but often velocity dependent increase in muscle tone. The faster you move the limb, the more resistance you feel. Cause, results from damage to the upper motor neurons, leading to an imbalance of signals between excitatory and inhibitory pathways in the central nervous system. Pattern usually affects specific muscle groups, often flexors in the arm and extensors in the leg, and is described as clasp knife. Initial resistance followed by a sudden release, okay? Common symptoms, muscle stiffness. Okay, so muscle stiffness is under spasticity, but not rigidity. We'll see what it says. Muscle stiffness, exaggerated reflexes, yes, and muscle spasms, yeah. I had all those.
But we didn't mention tone. You didn't add in tone, which goes along with spasticity and rigidity.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
very true.
it said in the beginning they're both types of abnormal muscle tone. So rigidity definition, increased muscle tone that is not velocity dependent. So maybe I had rigidity, not spasticity. I don't know. I mean, everybody was talking spasticity. It acted in similar ways. Increased muscle tone is not velocity dependent. Resistance is consistent throughout the range of motion, regardless of how fast or slow you move the limb. Cause, more commonly association with lesions in the basal ganglia, though this can be seen after some strokes, as in Parkinson's disease. Well, mine was, the basal ganglia is nearby, but mine was in my thalamus.
Yeah, mine was the basal ganglia.
Yours was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Basal ganglia.
See, we learned something here. Pattern affects both agonist and antagonist muscles equally, often called lead pipe rigidity, or if accompanied by ratcheting sensation, cogwheel rigidity. Wonder if that bump I was talking about is just like cogwheel, because what would happen is it would go like boom, boom, and then it would get smooth again. Common symptoms, stiffness or inflexibility throughout the entire range of motion. Do you treat them the same? Different, because the differences in their underlying causes and response. Spasticity management, stretching and range of motion exercises, physical and occupational therapy, medications like baclofen, trazodone, Botox injection, modalities, use of heat and cold, electrical stimulation, and casting. Rigidity techniques, physical and occupational therapy focus on relaxation, trunk rotation, and rhythmic movement. Medications, dopaminergic drugs.
Dopaminergic.
Dopaminergic. Boy, some of these words. Drugs
That's
are
that's what they use for Parkinson's, isn't it?
are usually more helpful in Parkinsonian rigidity, while stroke-related rigidity may not respond as well to medication. Modalities, similar supportive therapies, but less focus on the anti-spasticity medication. Key distinction, and we're done here. Spasticity tends to respond better to medications specifically aimed at reducing muscle hyperactivity, whereas rigidity is often more resistant and may require exercises focused on movement patterns and relaxation rather than medication. And the follow-up question that just popped in my head is, can you have both at the same time? Yes, it's possible to experience both spasticity and rigidity at the same time after a stroke. Just to complicate matters,
Yeah.
though it is uncommon, okay? Spasticity is typically associated with upper neuron corticospinal tract damage, most seen after stroke or spinal cord injury. Okay, so you can have both. It mentions the basal ganglia. However, because some strokes can affect multiple areas of the brain, including the basal ganglia and its corticospinal tract, this overlap may occur. In these cases, a person could display symptoms of both. Okay, so Chris, you could have both. It said it was fairly rare. I don't know how you determine you had both. And Dr. Hetzler, I apologize for butchering all these scientific terms in my pronunciation.
No problem at all. The basal ganglia are a group of structures. There are actually three of them: caudate, putamen, and globus pallidus. And of those three, the largest ones are the caudate and putamen. And it is dopamine input to the caudate and putamen that is disrupted in Parkinson's disease. Now, a stroke in the caudate and putamen of the basal ganglia can produce symptoms that resemble Parkinson's disease. Now, in contrast, spasticity results from damage to either the primary motor cortex, which is in the frontal lobe, or the axons that descend from there down to the spinal cord. That's called the corticospinal pathway, and as it goes down through the brain, it's referred to as the internal capsule. So spasticity results from disruption of that corticospinal pathway that goes down. The neurons, the cell bodies that are up here in the primary motor cortex are called the upper motor neurons. The motor neurons that are in the spinal cord that go out to the muscles are called the lower motor neurons. So the upper motor neurons connect to the lower motor neurons, and in a stroke, you have a problem of communication between the upper motor neurons and the lower motor neurons. And that's what creates the motor problems.
I
Okay.
saw a neurologist who also specialized in Parkinson's, and I said, "Look, I've had a basal ganglia stroke. Is there any chance I've got Parkinson's as well?" He said, "How's your sense of smell?" I said, "My smell is fine. I can smell." He said, "You probably haven't got it then." He said, "That's the first thing that goes is your sense of smell with Parkinson's."
Okay. So one of the things that happens with Parkinson's is tremors. I don't have tremors. My hands, this is my affected hand, the one with the watch.
Yeah.
So I can put my hands out and they don't shake. But if I go to do something like grab this glass, I'm always of I'm always of two minds about this because I'm not sure I want to be setting this off. But if I want to grab this, I can just grab it. Whoa, see, you can see what happened. I get this like shaky stuff.
Well, Ralph, there's a difference between a resting tremor and an intention tremor.
Okay.
In Parkinson's disease, you have what's called a resting tremor. That is, if you're not doing anything, your hand might move. Now, what you're doing there and trying to reach for something, that's an intention tremor. You're intending to do something, so you're reaching towards it. That's not seen in Parkinson's disease. In Parkinson's disease, you shake when you're not doing anything. With a stroke, you shake when you're trying to do something.
Right. Well, the interesting thing is, so it'll do that, and if I concentrate, I can stop it. Almost. There we go. And the other thing is, there it goes again when I start to try and do something. As soon as I grab onto anything, it's fine. I mean, I'm barely touching this now. Just barely touching it. Somehow or another, the sensory stops it. In fact, I put in my eye drops every night, and this handle goes like this on the way to my eye. But once I get it on there, I pull down that eyelid and put in my eye drops. But as I go up, you'd think, oh man, he's going to poke his eye out with that hand. But it works, and I do it over here too. That's a trick. I just did that automatically. Your brain does is an amazing thing. So I
But if
went
you
to
if
demonstrate
you
that again and have the shake. And what I did was I put one finger on my face before I got the hand all the way over there, and it reduces it. Go ahead, Chris.
if you grabbed your good hand, you could probably put it there without any problem.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no problem.
Hmm.
I guess I figure, well, maybe I should be doing that. I don't know. This is a gray area. So should you be doing things where it's not where it's an assisted motion to get rid of the shake? You know, if I do that, see, I still have so a little bit when I let go. No, that was pretty good. Or will my hand eventually learn to do it without this hand, or will it become dependent on this hand? And if I do it this way, well, the way I'm doing it apparently isn't working because 17 years later it's still shaking. So
I know when I put my pants or trousers on, I have to put one side with in my bad hand uh, before I can't just grab it with my affected hand. I have to insert part of it in the pants in the bad hand, and then grab the other side with my good hand in order to pull up.
right. I just I do it all with my I got over pulling up my pants a while back, but and I'm not going to take them off or anything. But basically, if they're down a bit, you can. My unaffected hand will go from this hip all the way to that hip. It'll go around in all 360 degrees. So I just go back and forth and pull it up. It gets stuck on your butt, so you just go around the back, pull it up over your butt, and go back to doing that, and you got it. That's not training your unaffected hand. I did a video on that. I do it for people who have little to no use of their affected hand, of which there are a lot, and still want to be able to put their pants on one way or another. It's better to be able to put your pants on with one hand as opposed to having to call somebody to help you put your pants on.
That's true.
We all like to be independent. But ultimately, my whole philosophy was, okay, I'll adapt in the short term, but my strategy, my philosophy is to overcome the spasticity, overcome the fact I can't do it, get back to being able to do it, even if I'm not doing it perfectly or the way I could do it before my stroke. It's back to that functional therapy and constraint-induced movement therapy. Use as much as you possibly can. So, sound like a broken record, but that's the reality of it.
Yeah, I feel like there's a tough balance from compensation to have a better, to live your life versus, not doing it,
I was going to circle back to that gal who I didn't catch. Terrible with names. Trina?
Tina,
Yeah.
Tina.
I was going to circle back to her because it seemed like she had something to say, but she disappeared. So
Yeah, she had to leave.
she what?
She had to leave for PT. She had a PT appointment or something.
Oh, okay. I'm terrible. Oh yeah, Tina Orkin have to leave for PT. I'm terrible about dice sport for spasticity. Dice sport is a variation of it's not botulinum toxin. It's not a Botox, but it's another toxin, nerve toxin. So
Have you tried that?
have what?
Have you tried the dice part?
I had no Botox, no. I was gonna say Dyson. That's the blue stuff. That Dyson's the vacuum cleaner. Dysam is the blue stuff, the anti-slip stuff. That's the coolest stuff in the world, but it's really expensive. If it was cheap, we could use it a lot more. It holds your plate steady. I use it on the bed if I'm doing, I don't do bridges on the bed. I can get down on the ground and do them and get back up. But when I've done videos, I've used Dyson to keep my heels from slipping on the bed. You can use it for all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I got a piece got a kitty scratch, cardboard kitty scratch box, and the cat moves it halfway across the room, scratching on it. So I put a piece of Dyson under it, and bingo, it stays put. Anyway, Dice Sport is the name of it, I believe.
Yeah, I've had 2 treatments of Botox and it has not worked. So, but I've heard Dysport may work, but I don't
Okay.
know.
I'm familiar with it two ways. I've heard a few people say Botox didn't work and Dysport did. But other people like Polly Hutchison did Botox for a number of years. Botox may not work for some people and work for others. If people it works for, sometimes it works forever, sometimes it stops working after a few years. Polly Hutchison's one of those people, and she went back to getting the same relief that Botox was providing her by switching to Dysport. There's also a third one, I don't remember the name of it, but they're all basically nerve toxins, but occasionally they mess people up. Dr. Hetzler was talking about how it messed him up. Michelle Jensen had it in her hand, and she couldn't do her hand exercises for about 6 months. So like Dr. Hetzler, she would say, I really regret doing that. But
Absolutely. Yeah, I wish I'd never done it.
how do you know unless you try?
Right.
That's true.
I mean, we're full of catch-22s today.
Bruce, what part of your body was it?
For me, it was my arm.
Yeah, because I
Yeah,
have
for me, it was my arm and my legs.
Oh.
My leg.
I have an overactive finger, and they inject in the forearm. That does work because I only put a minimal amount in, but once they put too much in, and I couldn't use my finger for a long time.
So they put it in your forearm because that's where the tendons are. I guess the nerves are.
That's where all the muscles are that control your fingers.
Right. Well, and the tendons go all the way up to your elbow. If you move your fingers, you can feel the tendons moving up right by your elbow.
Yeah. First of all, they have to search around for which muscle.
I can see them moving. I don't know how do I do this.
Yeah.
I'm terrible. Yeah, you can see them moving. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that. I've learned a lot about anatomy, I guess. I still don't know the names of all the muscles. I probably never will because they're all in Latin.
Well, the forearm apparently has got 22 muscles in it.
It does. That's a lot of muscles. You got, what, 610, something like that. Use over 200 when you stand up in the morning and take that first step.
Yeah.
That's why the reset that goes on in your brain. Some people have reported that they get, and I've seen it. I actually had one of the guys I was working with try it, and well, I didn't see it because I didn't go to his house. I wasn't at his house at 6:30 in the morning when he woke up and did therapy in bed before he stood up. But apparently, once you stand up, your brain resets. My understanding from talking to Dr. Hetzler is that during REM sleep, your brain is paralyzed, and that after REM sleep, you're involved in some type of reset.
Your body is paralyzed during REM sleep.
Right,
not your
right.
brain.
Right. Did I say your brain's paralyzed?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm capable of doing stuff like that. Yeah.
That's okay. Yeah, your body is paralyzed during REM sleep. That's when you're dreaming. That keeps you from acting out your dreams. And actually, there was a reported case of someone who had a stroke, and that prevented his body from being paralyzed while he was dreaming. And one night, he dreamt that he was playing football and he was a linebacker, got out of bed and ran straight into his dresser, thinking he was tackling somebody, hurt himself. And again, that's because of a stroke that prevented the REM sleep paralysis.
Well, there's some kind of reset that goes on, and people, particularly hands, people have reported they can move their hand more before they stand up. I've passed this on to 20 or 30 people, and most of them have said that they could somewhat. I had a couple people that said it didn't work for them, and I eventually found out that they got up to pee and then got back in bed. When you stand up, I believe you use 203, 206 muscles, something like that. Take a step. A lot of muscles. The whole brain and skeletal muscle system is a very, very complex thing. And strokes are all different. So, we're back to we're back to body awareness a lot of times. Okay. Gary, I'm surprised you haven't had a question. Maybe he's just listening. Who knows? Wonder how many people are watching on YouTube. 22 views, 5 concurrent. People come on YouTube a lot. They see it going on. They come in for like a couple of minutes. What's the watch time? Average view duration, 8 minutes. Yeah, so that basically means some people are in there watching, and a lot of people pop in and pop out. This isn't for me. This is boring. Okay. Anyway, to keep it from being boring, what else are we going to talk about? Gary apparently didn't hear me. He's usually got a lot of questions. He sends me a lot of questions in Messenger. So when do you want to do core?
Yes.
Okay, well, next time we don't have a guest. Let's see, so we got September 2nd and August 26th are Dr. Sam and Andre. Then we got September 9th is open right now, so that might be the next time we do this. And then September 16th, I'm supposed to have Maddie Nybeck with psionic and a psionic expert come talk about the sleeve. This thing's had multiple dates. Oh, Randy A. I gotta pay attention to that waiting room thing. He tried to get in a minute ago. Hopefully he's not our spammer. Okay, he's back. Hey, Randy. All right. Well, he seems to be in this time, although he was in last time and didn't say. So yeah, I guess what I'm gonna do is maybe pick a topic. We don't have to stick to that topic, but it's maybe a starting point for these conversations. And so when we do core, I'll get exercise mat, and we'll talk about how to get down and how to get back up. Maybe I'll get in and out of the wheelchair for people. Show how to get back up off the floor. I could take the computer in and do it in the bed, or I've got a video on doing core exercises in the bed. Because people say, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't get down on the floor. I can't get back in the wheelchair. Well, you get in bed to sleep. So one thing you could do would be, get in bed and do your exercises in bed instead of the floor. It's a little easier to transfer to and from than all the way down to the floor. I got a way of getting down on the floor and back up without touching anything, but most people can't do it. In fact, I've showed it to a couple people, non-stroke survivors who are my age. One's a yoga teacher, and she couldn't do it. So it's not the simplest thing. and I wouldn't necessarily encourage people to do it. I actually have a video about it because I wouldn't used to show that kind of thing, but then a lot of people said, no, you need to show us what you can do. It's inspirational. So that's why it's out there.
Yep.
What happened was I was trying to do really deep knee bends or squats. I mean, like all the way down. I can get down to where if I put my fists under my butt, I can touch my fists and the ground. So I'm 4 inches off the ground and stand back up. For some reason, I started that in therapy, not that deep, but in the rehab hospital, I started doing that. I don't know why, but I did, and it was a good thing. One day I was all the way down like that. I said, all I have to do is put my knees down and I'm on the ground. So I did. I put one knee down and the other knee down, and I went, okay. Of course, you can roll to your side and get prone and do sit-ups and push-ups and whatever, and then get back up. But when I demonstrate, I don't do anything other than get down and then get back up. The hard part's getting up without touching anything. I don't know about you all, but I want to touch something when I'm getting up. I don't necessarily push on it, but I want to have something just there to quiet that fear of like losing balance and falling over. So it's tricky.
Can you reverse the process then?
Can I what?
You can get down to your knees and then to get on the floor, you just do a deep squat and then fall onto your knees, and then can you reverse that process?
Yeah, I've seen the way yeah, can I reverse it? Sure. Okay, here we go. Haven't done it in a while. Well, I haven't done it in a month or two, couple months. I try and do it. I should do it once a week or something. Why is all my shirts tucked in? Because I was demonstrating. I'm gonna put this chair here, although I'm gonna try not to touch it. Need that chair closer. Okay, so Chris, yeah, I was doing a squat like this, and I said, yeah, all I gotta do is put my knees down. So I put one knee down and I put the other knee down. Of course, I can, do whatever I want to do, but typically what I do is, and I've learned how to get up with my affected leg. Now, typically all of us want to like grab onto something, and maybe even push up. I'm gonna move that a little further away so I'm less tempted. I found, and then I pull up my affected leg. I get up on my affected leg. I never do that. I can reposition it myself. And then I don't push up off of it. That's what my friend, the yoga teacher, had to do. She had to push up. And I just come up.
Oh, wow.
But as you can see, it's like a jerky motion, and I have to readjust my balance a couple times. I usually put my arms out pretty good.
Yes,
One thing I'd forgotten about this until just now. But when I was building these boxes, 16-foot boxes for the garden, I had these like 16-foot long 2x8s. They weigh about 20 or 30 pounds. I could carry them okay. I was worried about, because I built it out here on this deck. I don't know if you can see. And now you can't see, there's 3 steps up. So I'm going, how am I going to go up the steps with these 16-foot long boards? Well, I had some 2x4s that were also 16, so I took one of them because they're lighter. And I went to walk up the steps, and it was like, yeah, the flying Walindas and trapeze tightrope walkers have always got a big pole. Well, that's because that pole, they can use it to do bigger adjustments than you can do with your body. They move the pole a little bit and maintain their balance. I came up those 3 steps with no handrail, nothing. Well, I got 8 feet of board on each side of me. And it was like so easy. It was unbelievable. I just if I held the board right, I could just walk up. In fact, I turned around. My wife told me to stop after a while. after a couple of times, I went, wow, this is great. And I went back down, back up, back down, back up a couple of times. So got to be some way you could use that for balance therapy. I'll have to see if I can remember that. I don't know if it works. I don't think it works with a 4-foot pole. I've got a 4-foot dowel over here that I use for getting my shoulder up, and it's also good for arm and wrist exercises sitting in a chair. You can, it's just a standard dowel from a big box lumber store. A friend of mine put all this tape. It used to have red Sharpie. You can still see a little bit of the red Sharpie between the black. He put caps on the ends, and one side's rounded and one side's flat. Yeah, it's just a standard dowel. You can do all kinds of stuff. Like if your affected hand doesn't work very well, you can, you can do stuff like I'm doing most of the work now with my unaffected hand. I can twist it and raise it up. But you can do, lots of things like, too close. You can do all kinds of stuff, together with your shoulder. I also use it to push my my affected arm up. Shoulders get stuck right about here.
Yeah, mine does.
What?
Mine does.
Yeah. And I finally figured out why. And I verified it with 2 physical therapists. Dr. Sam was the last one. So basically I kept going, everybody I was working with, their arm got stuck here. One day I said, I wonder if there's different muscles. So I put my arm back here, my hand on my scapula, and your scapula doesn't move until you get here. And then it starts rotating from here up. Well, we sit around with our shoulders not working so long, or only having limited range of motion, you're not using those muscles, and they atrophy, I guess. And so that's why it's hard to break through. And the old dowel trick works pretty good because you can push up. Like I can do nothing with my affected hands. The only problem is people who don't have any kind of hand thing can't grip the dowel. So I pushed up and I used mental imagery. I thought about it. So I pushed up, I tried to pull up with this hand. I tried to think about moving that arm, not just pushing it up, just, okay, move it up, pull up with that arm. And eventually I got to where I could lift it without it. I would hold the other end of it, but I would try, pulling this arm up with the affected arm. It took a year, so my whole recovery was wacky because I got my fingers back first, then my wrists, then my opening the elbow, and then my shoulder, and it's supposed to go the other way. But again, body awareness. I noticed that I was getting finger movement, so I jumped on that. I say, jump on what's working. Whatever's working, that's what you need to be doing. Work what works was what I came up with one day. It was a young man in one of the groups. He said, I'm getting some finger movement, but my shoulder's still not working, and it's supposed to happen shoulder, arm, wrist, hand. So I'll wait until my shoulder is working before I do my hand. And I went, no, work on both. You can work on more than one thing at a time. I mean, when you're working on walking, you're working on a lot of things. You're working on lifting that foot up. You're working on not circumducting. You're working on putting your heel down first. You're working on rolling through. You're working on not hyperextending your knee. That was about 5 things right there, using lots and lots of different muscles. So, all right. Anybody got any more questions? Linda, I'm glad you finally got in. Randy finally got in. Tina had to go to therapy, so I won't take that personally. I was worried that I hadn't didn't get around to calling on her because Musan and I were talking about the whole spasticity, rigidity thing. Anybody?
How's about heel raises?
What about heel raises?
What's the best way to do it?
Okay. I would have to look. I'll send you the video.
Okay.
I have two videos on it. One is the standard way, and at that point in time, I determined the best way to do heel raises was on a set of steps because you can dip your heels down and then you turn them into toe raises. When your heels go below the step, you're now doing dorsiflexion, which is pulling your toes up. Only a lot of people can't pull their toe up sitting in a wheelchair or a regular chair. So what happens when you do heel raises on the steps and you go below grade, you may not be pulling that toe up, but you're working into that range of motion and you're using your body weights forcing it down. When you're sitting in a chair, trying to, I need to figure out some of these I wish I had a dream the other night and I did one of these with my Chuck, my camera guy. And we had it hooked into Zoom and he'd follow me around and make, great pictures. I'm stuck with a Zoom window and a laptop that folds and twists, and that's it. No Zoom, well, it's not big enough in here. But anyway, we do what we can.
The other good thing about stairs is you strengthen your cuffs by eccentric training, eccentric muscles,
Right.
but by lowering them.
Okay, when about 3 years ago, I went to see this doctor of physical therapy in Charleston. He's the one I went to see by accident. His name's Aaron Brown, and there were two Dr. Aaron Browns. One was pelvic floor, and that was who I was supposed to go to, and this guy was sports medicine. And he told me right away he wasn't a neuro and I had the wrong one. I said, well, let's give it a try. What happens if it doesn't work? He said, I'll find you a neuro. I said, let's go. And I never needed him to find me a neuro because he taught me as much as any neuro PT because he knew muscles so well. And he showed me, I believe they're labeled a new kind of heel raises and a new kind of toe raises. He showed me doing them against the wall. And when you do them against the wall, you're putting yourself, okay, a normal heel raise, you're standing up straight and you're going straight up and down. When you do a heel raise, it's at the end of your step. It's, you're doing it. So if you take a step and you go to take your next step, this is where you're doing the heel raise, right in here, before you put that next foot down here. Now we're doing another one. So and the same with when you plant your heel. You're not standing straight up. You're like this, see? So I'm like, if I've got that foot out, I'm now lean back a bit. So he had to do the toe raises, lean back, so that your body is in that, position. I can drop them in the chat for anybody who wants them. I wish I could put them underneath the edited video. Sometimes I do that. I can drop them in the chat if anybody else wants them, or if I'll messenger them to you, Winnie. I'll messenger the regular heel raise one with the steps and then the new kind of heel raises and new kind of toe raise videos. They're real interesting for two reasons. You lean against the wall in both cases, and so that takes a lot of fear out of your brain, which is good. The other thing is it puts your body, both of them put your body in the position that it's in during your gait, so that the rest of your body's in the same position as when you're trying to do that, as opposed to standing straight up at a counter or on a set of steps. So I don't know if they're more effective or better. I liked him. I like going to him. I came every week he would show me something. Every week I'd come home, and that week I made 2 videos on both the heel raises and the toe raises. In fact, I've thought about going back to him and coming home every week and making videos again. But I'm going to be working with Dr. Monahan, we had a great talk a few weeks ago. He's a doctor of physical therapy in Ireland, and he likes my whole kind of get better with a dowel, get better at home approach. He's looked at my exercise videos and likes them, which I like, of course, because I don't know what I'm doing, and he knows what I'm doing and what you're supposed to do. So we're going to try and work out some stuff where he makes some recommendations, and I'm, as a 75-year-old stroke survivor, going to do them and demonstrate them. I found I have a lot of credibility with people because they can see I had a stroke. I get really irritated when you see these things, ads for upright walkers, and they got this 28-year-old hot blonde operating it. No, you should have some 65-year-old stroke survivor limping in your video. You know, somebody who's going to use it, not so. And I also don't do retakes. If I screw something up, I trained Chuck after the first shoot or two. He'd go take 2, and I'd go. And actually, in one of the videos, I say no, keep rolling. I do this. I cut out my audio where I say keep rolling. So, you know, a lot of times I'll put 2 chairs, one on each side of me if I'm doing something that involves balance. And I'll touch them or talk about them. I got 2 chairs here for safety, or I'll just lean towards them and touch them. And in that video, I was doing something and I lost my balance and touched them. I left it in there because it's real world. Also, I want to demonstrate always safety. So if I screw up and I use my safety device, I'm kind of reinforcing the fact that you should always have a safety plan. You get hurt when you fall, but the main thing you hurt when you fall is your confidence. You reintroduce all that fear you've been working so hard for years or 2 or more to get rid of. Now all of a sudden it's back. Oh God, I'm going to fall again. And I don't know about you, but I can't, certain times I can stop my brain. Most of the time I can't stop my brain. If it wants to be afraid of falling or something because of something I did, it's kind of got a mind of its own. So I'll send you those 3 videos.
Right, okay.
Are you able to
else?
do a heel raiser, Winfried?
What was that?
Are you able to do heel raises?
Not that well.
If you get next to a sink, you can help use your arms to pull you up. If you want to, I did that when I started.
Right.
And now I don't need the sink.
Right. Well, a sink is like the countertop or like a bar. Sinks usually aren't that far from the edge, so you can put your hands down like this and hold on, or even one-handed. You can kind of hold on to the sink and even push up with it because it's a little lower than a bar. Sinks are usually 36-inch cabinet height, and bars are 42 inches. I like the bars in a grab bar because, you know, if you go to do it against the sink, if you can't do stuff like marching because your knees will hit the counters underneath the sink. Whereas at a bar, you have enough space and you can, you know, raise your knees all the way up and the things can go forward a little bit without hitting the kitchen cabinets. So I'm thinking about doing one of these in the kitchen. I have to figure out how to do it with a laptop, though. It's hard. I've been trying to figure out how to do it with my little Joby tripod, tying it to cabinets and stuff to get in the right position to show stuff. I do have a remote now, so I can stop and start the videos. I do a lot of stuff in the kitchen just because I'm in there cooking and waiting on stuff, waiting on my dinner to warm up, or I cut up something and I'm cooking it, and I've got everything else cut up, and so I just fool around on the kitchen counters a lot.
If you did a Zoom on your phone, that would be more flexible, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I should do that, Chris. I've joined a meeting one time on my phone because I had to. I've held 500 or 600 of them on my laptops. This is the second one. The first one died. But I've never hosted a meeting on my phone. That would be interesting.
With a tripod, obviously.
I need a home base like the laptop, so it gives you a steady shot and it's not like, doing this the whole time.
Yeah, you need a tripod, huh?
Yeah, I've got at least 3 tripods. I have a little Joby tripod that you can bend the legs and you can strap it around a tree branch. I can put it around my arm. It'll wrap around almost anything. Anyway, that's my challenge as a video person, to try and figure out how to make better video images here in this meeting, and I'll work on it as I can. But if nobody has any more questions, I got a 2 o'clock appointment and I want to eat lunch. And so, anybody got anything else? Otherwise,
A good session.
okay, good. Well, I'm going to end it on YouTube and end. Okay, now we can say whatever we want.
Hi, Ralph.